Hey, Shalom, Shalom. I want to start off source by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahshua, Bashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Would you call it? I was, just on my telly, right, and basically they suggested this video here that you see at the top, right? It says, "Is Russia mentioned in end times Bible prophecy?" And the answer to that question is yes. And they started going into Daniel's the 7th chapter, and basically it was almost as if they were trying to. I only watched like the first 3 minutes of it, but it was almost as if they were trying to. What's the word I'm looking for? Say that modern day, that modern day fourth beast, modern day Roman Empire is Russia. That's not true, and we'll get into that. And it was trying to use Daniel's the 7th chapter. But they did speak about Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, which is on point. That is referring to Russia, right? That is of a truth, right? So he said, you can watch this if you will, but gonna which could go into it and read some of the notes, that I have on there. Right, so I'm going to start off with Daniel the 7th chapter. I'm read into it. I'll try and read quick. Right, it says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, right, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Right, then he wrote the dream and told the son of the Magus. Right, and this is the son or grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Right, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Right, four great beasts representing four kingdoms that will be raised up and then brought down, and that will be great in power and wickedness. Right, this is diverse one from another. The four kingdoms will rule differently despite having the same gods. Right, verse 4, it says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Right, it says, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Right, it says, when the lion had wings, it represents the Assyrian Empire. Right, see Lamassu. Right, so I'll get up a picture, right, which you can see here. Right, it says, when the wings thereof were plucked, it represents the Babylonian Empire. And verse 5, it says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Right, it raised up itself on one side, says one side being the Persians, became stronger than the other, right, the Medes. The three ribs representing Babylonia / Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Lydia. Devour much flesh. It says the kingdom was vast. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. This is the Greek Empire likened to a leopard, because a leopard strikes quick. This is the four wings are the four generals, right? Cassander, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and Seleucus, right, from whom came Antiochus or Antiochus IV, however you say it. It says that Alexander the Greek divided the kingdom to upon his death. This is these four generals are referred to as the Diadochi, i.e. the successors, right? Diadochi meaning successors. Verse 7 says, and this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Right, the Roman Empire. It says the residue is referring to all of the countries surrounding Rome that Rome taxes, diverse from all the beasts, because they didn't have a king, but rather Caesars. Right, which is what we kind of see, what we do see in these modern, and the modern Roman Empire. This concept of democracy. You vote someone in and blah blah blah. Right, verse 8 says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Right, little horn, this is this current kingdom, more specifically the United States, different to little horn spoken of in Daniel 8, which is referring to Antiochus. No, it's one thing to note. It says, verse 9, it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Right, thrones were cast down, all the kingdoms of the earth until now. Ancient of Days, says Yahweh, doesn't have a beginning nor an end. Yahweh shall on the other hand is the beginning and the end. Revelation 1 and 8 says his wheels as burning fire. That's a chariot. It says a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were open. Right, fiery streams is a chariot. Same account as in Second Ezra 13th chapter. This is judgment, the war of Armageddon. It says where in Babylon the Great America will be destroyed. Verse 11, I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame, right? To the beast, right? The same beast as is referenced in Revelations, right? Because then notice how, the scriptures basically, linking all up. That's why the scriptures speak about in Isaiah 28, 10 and 13, right? Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, right? So some people might be like, oh, this is a completely different event, but that's actually speaking of the same things, right? This is it says till the beast, the same beast as is referenced in Revelations, Esau's power structure, NATO and the EU, his body destroyed. America is going to be completely destroyed and never built up again. Note that parts of Europe that will be destroyed will be rebuilt, right? Because basically America is going to be, a monument to those that should live ungodly. Okay, just bear with me. All right. So continuing on, verse 12. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season at a time, right? It says to go into slavery, okay? It says, and I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him, and there was given him dominion and glory and kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. So, the Lord is basically going to give us dominion over the earth. Okay, these different heathen nations, they've had their time, and they've proven themselves unworthy. Right, the Lord Yahweh, on the other hand, is gonna, take these kingdoms down. So it speaks of, how he had many crowns, those representing taking the power from these different rulers, right? And we're gonna be joint heirs with him. Verse 19 says, then I will know the truth of the four beasts, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Right? This fourth beast started as the ancient Roman Empire, and then reincarnated as NATO and the EU. And when we, open up Revelation, the 13th chapter, we'll go into that as well. Okay, so when, like I said, it was as if they were trying to say, in this, I'm looking at TV, but in that clip, it was as if they were trying to say that, that fourth beast, right, the Roman Empire was reincarnated as Russia or something like that. That's what it kind of came across like they were pushing, but that is not true. Okay. Verse. Wait, did I finish reading that? Yeah. Verse 20 now, it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. right? It says threefold, three horns that fell represents the French, English, and Spanish. It says, look, was more stout than his fellows. American Edomites think that they're better than other Edomites, right? And where I work, there's a, what do you call it, like a call center, right? And basically, an American called in and he was like, oh, you can't talk to me like this. I'm an American. And this, that, and the other. And it's just like, so what? Right? If you're a heathen, oh, you're not of the elect, you're going, perish being an American. Okay, how about that? Verse 21 says, and I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Right, so prevailed against when the Edomites went to America and attacked Gad and Reuben, right, the so-called Native American Indians and Seminole Indians, respectively. It says, and then proceeded to take the southern kingdom, right, from the west coast of Africa into slavery. Verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom, right? Judgment was given. Yahweh will give power to judge the Israelites, right? Precepts there says 1 Corinthians 6 and 2, 1 Corinthians 2:15, right? Verse 23 says, then he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. Right, so shall devour the whole earth. The ancient Roman Empire did not conquer the whole earth, whereas modern day Rome, America, has done just that. Right. Says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after him, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he spake great words concerning against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and things change times and laws, right? And they shall be given into his hands until a time and times and the dividing of time. Right, this man, he's wearing us out, man. He's wearing, Lords, we will be of the elect. He's wearing out the saints, man. Okay, and he's been changing times, laws. He's been changing everything, man. Scriptures talk about his turning of things upside down, and that's what he has done in this world. He's come and he's in his pride has basically tried to make himself be like the Most High. Right, so, but the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations, which I believe that word basically means thoughts, right? Thought, yeah. Much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, right? But I kept the matter in my heart. Okay, so that's the the true breakdown of Daniel's 7th chapter as broken down by the apostles of Great Millstone. Okay, so it's like I said, read Revelation 13 real quick, right? It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Right. So it says, I stood upon the sand of the sea. So that's when what is it? That's when John the Revelator, right, was on the island of Patmos. Right. This is the sea. Right. Mediterranean Sea represents peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. Revelation 17 and 15. So 7 heads, so 7 kingdoms: Germania Major, Germania Minor, Italy, Greece, France, Spain, and Britain. Right, and then they have ancient names as well that I haven't got here. It says the 10 horns represent the common market, or the EEC, right? The EU, right? Now called the EU, established in 1958. This is originally comprised of Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Greece, Spain and Portugal, England and Ireland, and West Germany, right? And this is the same as the 10 toes spoken of in Daniel, the 2nd chapter, right? So it's what do you call it? Yeah, that's okay. But yeah. So once again, so that's going into the into the 7 heads and 10 horns. That's the the true breakdown of it. So when when that individual is basically trying to say that that was speaking about Russia, that was not correct. So now we'll jump over to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, which they were correct on, right? It says, and the word, Ezekiel 38 and 1 says, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, right, son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, right? So then you look that up in, the maps, and I'll just pull one up, right? So you see here on, on the map page, Gog, Magog, so it's basically roughly this, top right region here, roughly, right? Because for instance, it looks like they kind of gone off a bit on this, because I believe, yeah, I think they gone off on this, on bits of this map. So what do you call it? Let's not look at that one, right? Let's look at this one. But we basically see that rough region there, that where you see Magog, in that rough region, further to the north, right? That's representative of what of basically what is Russia today. Okay. Like I said, yeah, I think, don't quote me on that, but I think this map was going off, because I believe, because yeah, this map is ain't quite right, as I don't believe this to be quite right, this map. But you get the point. If we just concentrate on the top right segment of this image, right, we basically are going into what's the word I'm looking for, what is modern day Russia, right? So we continue on. Says, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, right? It says, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him, right? And say, thus saith the Lord, power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And this is because the Lord isn't with the Russians, because ultimately the Russians are Edomites, okay? It's lucky, but the Lord basically has a use for, has a use for these Russian Edomites, okay? So it says, verse 4, and I will turn thee back, right? Because, in the at times of the USSR, Russia was a strong, powerful nation, whatever, what have you, right? And then basically they fell, America, continued in their prominence, right? But now you can see that the Lord is putting that spirit back on, the Russians, okay, to basically have that imperial mindset, right? It says, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I'll bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Okay, yeah, we'll go into that. Right, it says Persia and Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Obviously, Persia being modern day Iran. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah and of the north quarters, right, and all his bands and many people with these. Is Gomer and Togarmah, ancient places which are now in what would be called Turkey, which is why I was looking at this map here, and they've got Gomer as like basically being west, what do you call it, being west, basically Switzerland and France. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not too sure. The maps ain't my strong point. But like I said, I don't believe this to be correct. Yeah, especially because they've got what do you call it, England as mapped as Tarshish, and yeah, what do you call it, and that ain't right either. So, but yeah, so yeah, so Gomer and Togarmah are ancient places which are now in what would be called Turkey, right? Verse 7 says, but be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guard unto them. And that is basically going into the fact that, Russia is going to be protecting all of these, different nations that, were listed there. Okay, and you've been seeing that even Russia giving their S-400s to Iran, to Turkey, right? And after there was a period of time when it was like, yo, Turkey was very much aligned with America. I remember being like, yo, how's Turkey gonna be aligned with Russia? But the Lord showed you in one night, right, how everything changed, which was the night when you had the coup, the attempted coup in Turkey, right? You basically after that, from what I remember of the situation, Turkey was like, yo, we expected some help for you guys, right? And then so basically after that, they started becoming more Russia leaning, okay? And they're even talking, about their, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're even talking about their current, position in NATO, whether they want to remain a NATO member or not, right? Like I said, I believe that to be true. You can fact check that. But yeah, so once again, they were on point. Those people, these individuals, when they were speaking about Ezekiel the 38th chapter, referencing Russia. However, when there was speaking about Daniel the 7th chapter, referencing Russia, like I said, it came across like they were saying, that fourth beast, came back as Russia or something like that. But that is incorrect. Okay, the modern Roman Empire is basically this kingdom that we're living in here, right? Which is why you see the same structures, the same kind of doings, and the same spirit, basically, right? But yeah, yeah. So as always, Lord's word, that was edifying. Until next time, we say shalom.